Okay, so let's go. Phumlani Majosi, the author of Lessons from Past Heroes. This is the Phumlani Majosi show. It's great to be back on this show this week. I'm talking to Peter Major. He's a mining and investment veteran, and he and I will talk about the mining sector. Where are we in South Africa? I read not long time ago that in 1980, uh, the mining contribution to our GDP was about 20%. Today is less than 6%. What are the dynamics around that? What's going on in the mining sector? And with me, I have Peter, who has been doing great work over the past decades. Peter, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, Phumlani. Thank you. I
Great to
hope you
talk
are
to you,
too.
sir. Yeah, wonderful to connect. I was reading this week, Peter, that one of the headlines on News 24 was SA's plummeting mining output expected to hit GDP, right? That was the headline in one of the articles this week. SA's plummeting mining output expected to hit GDP. And then one of the headlines on IOL not long time ago was once an economic mainstay, mining output slumps dramatically in February. This is the February this year. What's going on in the mining sector, Peter? Where are we in South Africa? It's one of the big industries in the country, very much popular, well known around the world. But where are we? Is this industry on the right track at this point?
No, Phumlani, it's not on the right track. We have totally changed tracks here. We started doing it gradually in the late 80s. And when the new government took over, then they started speeding up the changes in the industry. And by 2002, they decided to go for a radically economic change in the mining industry. And I mean radical. I don't know of a country that did such a radical change. So in 2002, they leaked out a document indicating how they planned on changing it. And our mining sector immediately fell over 30%. I think the all share index fell like 24, 25. That showed what the world thought of their changes. But they went
Mm,
ahead with those changes anyways. And in 2004, middle of the year, they made those changes law. The market took another 20% plus, but that didn't slow them down. Our government, our geniuses, had
yeah.
decided they are going to implement these changes,
Mm,
regardless of the consequences.
yeah.
And as the years went by, they made those changes even more radical. And each of those changes drives out more investment, closes down more mines, and results in this country extracting less of its minerals and getting less money for those minerals because our beneficiation goes down with our mining. So
Mm,
I would swear these people were all trained in Russia, as many of them like to brag up when I talk to them. Yes, we were trained in Russia during the struggle. I said, I believe it because the actions you're doing, you know right where the fuse box is. You know right where the wires are to pull them out. You know, it looks like sabotage, all right, international sabotage. So, how is this happening? It's all happening through policy. Policy can do more damage than any other act by anybody in government. And we've seen what policy does when it's positive. And we have two great examples north of us, countries called the DRC and Zambia. They went through negative policy changes in the late 60s, early 70s. They nationalized their mines, took them away from the owners, and they added a lot of other terms and conditions. With the result is copper production, zinc production, even gold production continued to fall year after year in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. Eventually, though, their populations got tired of that. They got sick of it. They said, we don't want to see this mining industry go to zero. We need jobs. We need dollar income. We need
mm,
technology. We need foreign investment. So what they do, they threw the bums out of office and they threw this despicable mining legislation that drove away industry. They burned it. They had a big braai in the middle of the street and they burned it, and they put in new legislation, new policies that would attract investment. And whoever advised them knew what he was doing, because from 2000 onwards till today, both those countries have received tens of billions of foreign investment, tens of billions. And go up there and look at Congo is now the second largest copper producer in the world. They had fallen to almost no copper production at the end of the last millennium. Can you imagine going from zero to over 3.3 million tons of refined copper? They have the most advanced copper smelter in the world, built during the height of COVID. How was that
Mhm.
done? Through positive policy. Zambia's lagged because they started altering their policy after they got a lot of investment, and their copper production fell from about 750,000 tons down to about 600,000. Then they elected a new president. He's trying to get the policy back on track. Their copper production is now going over 800. They want to go over a million. Then they want to go to two. And you know what? If they keep the right policy in place, we'll get to 2 million. That means Zambia and the DRC will now produce more than the world's Leviathan, named Chile.
Mm. Yeah,
So
yeah, that yeah.
policy is everything,
And you are
Phumlani.
saying it's negative policy that is hurting South Africa over the past decades. If people were to ask you, Peter, asking what are those negative policies you are seeing, you are seeing that basically stunting or repressing our mining industry. What are those policies? Any maybe two or three policies we have in mind?
Yeah, okay, let's go with the MPRDA, the one that was leaked to the press in 2002
Yeah.
by our social engineering geniuses that they implemented in 2004.
Mm,
First of all, they did a direct double cross. Mandela, when he was elected, got up and told the world, we will not nationalize the mines. We're not going to make the mistake that all those countries north of us did. We're going to work with the mining industry. If anything, we want it to grow. 10 years to the day, the ANC did a double cross. They nationalized the mines. Overnight, you woke up, you didn't own the mine. It was taken away from you. Didn't matter how many billions you'd put in the ground. Didn't matter what you'd built, how many shafts you sunk. You no longer own that mine. They didn't even put a grandfather clause. They didn't say new mines will be
mm,
nationalized. They said every mine is now nationalized like that.
yeah.
So if you're a foreigner, you're not going to put money in. The government doesn't keep its word, and they've taken away all the mines. So what's next? Marginal mines got no money to keep them going. The mines that weren't marginal said, we're going to redirect our capex. Let's get that money offshore. Let's diversify. We know diversification is the safest, best way to invest our money, not put it in the same place that's now taken it away and we can't trust their word. So nationalizing was a big jolt, a big, big jolt. And that, you could say that was a fatal shot, but it wasn't instantly fatal. It was like a gut shot. You know, you're running in the brush and you're shot in the stomach. It didn't hit your heart yet, but you're bleeding. You will die, but we don't
Yeah.
know how quick you're going to die. But
Yeah.
then you got the impression this government wants the industry to die fast. So they said, as well as nationalizing it, if you guys are dumb enough to still want to stay here and run the mines, well, you have to give away 26%, and not to the person of your choice, not to the national treasurer or a fund that we're going to create. No, no, you're going to give it to an individual. You're going to give 26% to an individual, and we are going to decide if he is worthy of it or not. So that really opened the door for lobbying, corruption, politicking. That
Yeah.
now the government will approve who you give the 26% to. He gets free credit. He doesn't have to have any money. But in case that didn't kill you, that's another shot to the stomach. Now you're running through the forest, you got two gut shots, you're bleeding bad, but you're still staggering, hoping you can find a doctor or a hospital.
Yeah.
They said, we've got another one for you guys. Get ready. We're going to shoot you again.
Mm.
Whatever you spend on the mine, 70% is going to go to what we call a BE company. And we will decide, we, the powers that be in government, the know-it-alls, the
Yeah.
godlings,
They think
we're
they
going to
know it all.
decide, yeah, we're going to decide if that entity registers in that 70%, if he's qualified, if he's anointed. So you can imagine 70% of what you spend is dictated by someone at the top in government. And so,
Mm.
say you've got a supplier, maybe he's Afrikaans, maybe he's giving you rock bolts for 50 years,
Mm.
maybe he's got 500 employees, doesn't matter. If SIPO over there is fronting for a Chinese company, well, he's BE, they'll get the business. So what does
Yeah.
Fricky do? Well, he lost a big contract. He can't keep employing 500 locals, whatever color skin they are. He has to retrench them. And he probably sells his business. He gets 10 cents on the buck for it. He doesn't care. He's had it. Sell it, get what I can. Let's move on. There's a 50-year business now goes under. And we have seen that thousands of freaking times. Established businesses that employed locals now taking a back seat to someone fronting for an overseas importer. It's
Mm.
it's too horrible for me to even talk about and think, Phumlani. It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's devastating. But
So,
yeah,
so
those are three massive shots to the
yeah.
body.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you are saying is that these huge government interventions in the mining sector, right, in the form of regulations, in the form of control, right, by by the by the political elite, um,
Yeah.
who think they know, more than anybody, right? Who think that they have these special powers. You are saying that government interventions have been problematic. They have suppressed our mining output, productivity, hurting the economy. And I guess you are saying the opposite, is what should have been done, or is what we should be doing, which is for the government to stay away, let the mining sector be a free enterprise system, don't intervene with all these regulations with Black economic empowerment, which we've just touched on. Um, that's what we are saying, right? That we should have let the market forces take over in the mining sector in South Africa.
We don't know how much is ignorance, how much is arrogance, how much is flat out greed. We don't know. Nobody can calculate that. But I think
Mm.
it's enormous quantities of all three. And because I was here in 82, I saw the men working on the mine. I saw the jobs they did. And this is all the men. Just the gold mines, Phumlani, had 560,000 employees. That's more than 500,000. And you know
Mm.
what? They were all deserving. They were tough. They were experienced. They were professionals. They had families. And they were in their position because of meritocracy. And by 1984, apartheid was essentially dead on the mines. Anyone
Mm.
could have any job if he was qualified and motivated. Anyone. And
Yeah.
those men had earned those positions. And those
Mm.
were real jobs. They could get housing bonds from banks. When you worked for a mining house, Anglo American, ran mines, JCI, when you had 10, 20 years with them, you were reliable. You had a good backer. You could get a loan. You could put your kids in the right school, give them a better life than you got. That was all destroyed in the name
Yeah.
of what? Ideology, greed, incompetence, but not
Mm.
caring. I mean, I don't think any of these creators of these rules, regulations, and policies cared. I don't think they gave minutes to the possible consequences of their actions. Can you imagine them jumping in a 747 and just saying, hold on, everybody, we're taking over from here on? And I'll tell you, running an economy, running a mining industry is every bit as complicated as running a 747. Doing brain surgery is no more difficult than running an economy with tens of millions of people. Yet they thought they could. Or did they even care? Or were they so self-centered that they never gave it a moment's caring? And even when they see the consequences of their action, they're unmoved. They won't even contemplate backing up.
Mm, mm.
It's
So
disparaging.
yeah, yeah. So what you are saying here is that Black economic empowerment, as it has been done over the past 25 years of our democracy, it's been a negative. You are not the first person to say that. Moeletsi Mbeki, the author and political economist, he has been vocal against Black economic empowerment since the early 90s, actually. Since the 1990s, he has been opposed to the black economic empowerment policies, and we are saying that they are a negative for our country. I'm getting that from you. Now, some people will say, "Well, Peter, we do need these mining companies to employ more black people to address the injustices of the past. That we had a legacy of the apartheid system where black people were not given opportunities, and therefore the mining sector must be used to advance, the social justice agenda and address our injustices of the past." What do you say to that argument?
It's a
As an
free
investor, you
country.
are a veteran. You're an investor, a veteran. You know, um, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a free country, Phumlani. People are allowed to say whatever they want. You must consider the source. That's all. They can say what they want.
Mm,
But are they allowed to do what they want? That's the
mm,
difference. Are you allowed to do things that go against our Constitution? Are you allowed to do things like cause an industry to collapse and lay off 450,000 gold miners? Are there no consequences for the architects of that? You know,
mm,
when did we start getting Black economic empowerment? I saw a lot of it in the 70s when that gold price shot up from being held at $35 an ounce for 40 years. Only
mm,
South Africans invested in their gold mines. The rest of the world didn't. They closed their gold mines. South Africans invest in their gold mines. The government helped them. Why? To create economic empowerment for all its citizens. And it did. In those 40 years, when the rest of the world was disinvesting from gold, the industry here, helped by the government, invested and they doubled the number of black jobs in those
mm,
40 years. And then what happened when the gold price took off 73, 74, 75, black wages, they didn't go up percentages, they went up
mm,
multiples, way faster. That was economic empowerment. When O'Keefe Copper had a white mine workers strike in 1979 because O'Keefe Copper started promoting non-whites. The white unions called a strike. They went to Pretoria. They asked their friend, the labor minister, help us. Help stop this company. They asked the president, Forster, help us stop this company. They're promoting non-whites. Do you know what the government said? That was an apartheid government. What do you think they told the mine workers union? They
mm.
said, we don't dictate policy. That's a mining company. That's the United States Mining Company. They're doing
Yeah.
what they believe in, what's good for the people. They're promoting on meritocracy. No, we're not going to back you guys. They called a white mine workers strike. They tried to shut down the whole mining industry. It was a flop. That was the beginning of the end of any kind of apartheid on the mines. And here you had a racist apartheid government, and they saw that we had to change, and they backed the companies to do what was right. I wish we had a
Mm.
government that would do that now, that would back what is right.
Yeah, what
So
is right?
that was economic empowerment. By 1984, when anybody on the mine of any color or creed, nationality could have any job,
mm,
People were being empowered more and more by the day, and people had hope back then. That's what this government has really destroyed, is hope. Everybody on the mines that I worked with in the 80s, they knew tomorrow's going to be better than today. Next week's going to be better. We're going to get full
mm.
rights, not just economic rights. We're going to get political rights. And there was hope. And even the most racist apartheid era people knew it was going to be better and they wanted it. But
Yeah,
there's no
yeah.
hope now. With this horrible policy, it's destroyed all hope.
I'm speaking to Peter Major. He is a mining and investment veteran. We are speaking about the mining sector in South Africa. Where are we? We've heard that it hasn't been doing well lately. Peter says hasn't been doing well for a very long time because of bad policies, because of negative policies. Remember to get yourself a copy of my book, Lessons from Past Heroes, at a bookstore near you. I also do have copies here in Johannesburg. If you want a signed copy at a discount, then let's make that happen, especially if you are based in Johannesburg. I'm on X at Phumlani M. Majosi. I'm also on TikTok as Phumlani M. Majosi. I'm on Facebook, Phumlani M. Majosi. That's my Facebook page. I'm on LinkedIn, Phumlani M. Majosi. I'm also on Instagram at Phumlani M. Majosi. This is the Phumlani Majosi show. I'm having a very fascinating conversation with one of my favorite South Africans, Peter Major. Peter, now we have this government we have now, right? The government of national unity. I want to push you into politics now. Peter, we have this government of national unity, this coalition government, 10 parties, which makes zero sense to me, but that's a discussion for another day. Can they reverse these bad policies in the mining sector? We're going to speak about that, and then I want us to touch a bit on Gwede Mantashe. Maybe we can combine these things. Can Gwede Mantashe do something within this coalition government? Last time I checked, he was a communist with very bad ideas on how to organize the economy. But where are we on this? Can this government of national unity, can this 10-party coalition government reverse these bad policies we see in the mining sector?
Can they reverse them? It depends how much time they have. It depends how much energy they have. Can they slow them down? That's the first thing you need to do. Slow them down. Find out where they're coming from and try and close the door. Try and turn off the tap. This is a very difficult government of national unity because the majority party does not believe in democracy, does not believe in sharing according to numbers. You know, if the largest party only got 41% of the national vote and the next largest got 23%, well, that's about a 2/3, 1/3 right there. But as we saw, the national government here, previous national government, still thinks they're 100%. And if they're not treating the others as a democratic government of national unity, they can't change any policy.
Mm.
You know, to change policy, you need a majority. And theoretically, this GNU, they could reverse all those policies today if they all had a common vision, if they had a common concern. If all those parties were really concerned about South Africa and its people, they could reverse those. They've seen what happened in the DRC. They saw Zambia. It's easy. You can do it in a day. But unfortunately, the majority of the parties in the GNU that carry the votes don't want to reverse these policies. They want to introduce even more horrible policies. I don't know why. They want to drive more businesses out of the country. They want to drive more people onto the streets. I guess they think 40% unemployment isn't enough. So these policies, they can't point to why these policies should ever be successful. They can't point, we're introducing this policy because here's 4 successful companies or countries that have implemented it with great results. All they've done is look at the bad policies they've implemented and they're doubling down on them. Now we have, what do I say it, quotas. It reminds me of Nazi Germany, quotas. Who can be in this job? How many of this race can be in this job? It is insane. I wish it was just a nightmare and we could get out of it that quick.
Mm, mm,
But
mm.
yeah, I don't see them being reversed because I don't see the ANC recognizing any of their mistakes. I don't see them trying to rectify any of their mistakes. If
Yeah.
anything, they're digging in their heels, and they're what the GNU has improved on. It's been forcing the ANC to even make a modest effort in improving, disclosing, reconsidering.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So now let's so you are saying that well well, they can if they would if they had one vision. Unfortunately, there's no single vision, right? So you don't see these policies being reversed during this time between now, assuming that this GNU, is alive until 2029. That we are saying that these policies aren't going to be reversed. So that puts our mining industry in, it will continue being in a very bad position, right?
In peril, yes, it puts it in peril.
Is it
Let's
something
let's
worth
start with,
investing? Yeah.
yeah, is it worth investing? Lovely question. Exploring that question shines the light on what is wrong with our policy, what is wrong with our government. Let's pretend you're an investor sitting outside of South Africa. You've got some hard-earned money. Either it's yours or it's your clients. Either way, let's say it's hard-earned, that the people that got that money do not want to lose it. But they know there's inflation out there. They're planning for the future. They want to invest it and get some growth. A lot of people want to do some good with that money and get growth. Nothing wrong with that. So they have a myriad of choices. 210 countries on the planet. Which country would you put your money on? Well, for the last 30 years, that country was probably China. Why? Because the economy grew at double digits. Most shares can't grow at double digits. The
Mm,
S&P 500, the greatest index on the planet, can barely grow at 11% over time, over 100 years. And that's put it head and shoulders above everybody else. So can you imagine a country like China growing 11, 12, 13% over 30 years? So that's the kind of country you want to put your money in, a country that's growing. So you're definitely not going to put your money in a country that's not growing, that's stagnating. You're not going to put your money that is shutting down its industry, that is continually putting barriers in front of that industry. Now, that's why we've had almost no foreign investment in this country, especially in mining. People don't see, how am I going to make money in South African mining? And for every reason they can see they might make money, it's easy to show them 2 or 3 reasons they won't make money. Not only
mm,
are they worried about not getting a return on their capital, a lot of investors sitting in South Africa today are worried, will I even get my capital back? What if I invest in a mine that not only does it not grow, what if it shrinks? What if it goes broke? Then I lose my capital as well. So if you invested in China and you didn't make money, you can say, I went where everybody else did. It was growing at 10, 11%. But if you
yeah.
invest in South Africa and you lose money, people, they're going to nail you. They won't just fire you, they'll probably sue you, lock you in jail, because they'll say, why did you knowingly put our money in a country that was anti-investment, that had all these rules against making money? There's, as a fund manager, you're definitely not going to run that risk coming into a country like Zimbabwe or South Africa that's known to be anti-investor friendly, that's continually passing rules. I've asked our ministers before, Gwede Mantashe, show me, how can I make money if I bring money from overseas? Please show me. Here's a piece of paper. Here's a pen. Write down how I've got a better chance of making money here than losing money. They can't show you. So they haven't thought it through. Every policy they pass should be well thought through and tested. Will this policy bring in more foreign investment? Yes. Will it create
mm,
more jobs? Yes. Why? Write down the reasons. And then implement that policy, but watch it like a hawk. And if it's not bringing in foreign investment, if it's not creating jobs, then pull that policy away, fix it.
By the way, the 26% we spoke about earlier, that's the requirement according to the law. Um,
Now it's 30%.
it's 30% now, eh?
Yeah.
30%
20,
ownership.
26% didn't drive away money fast enough. They had to up it to 30.
They had to push it to 30. This is ownership by historically disadvantaged people, they say, um, or black people, basically. It's a BE requirement. Am I correct? Peter,
Sounds
right?
like a
That's
racist requirement.
does look like that, and it hasn't been helpful. Now we have a few minutes left, Peter. About 8 minutes. Let's talk about Gwede Mantashe. He has been a minister of, you know, in mining for since February 2018. How has he been doing? What is your judgment? If you were to grade him, A being excellent work and F being basically a fail, and maybe in between, um, how would you grade Mantashe? Is he the right person to be in charge of the, of this sector as a minister?
Very, very few ministers should be in the position they are, especially Mr. Mantashe. And I'm
Mm,
going to try and be unbiased. I'm going to pretend I was given the role of running this country today.
yeah,
For some reason, people put me at the top. Peter, you're at the top of this country. You don't have long, maybe a year. If you don't show results, you're out. I'll tell you, that's how most companies operate. So
operate, yeah.
I'm put in charge of this country. Am I going to leave Gwede in charge? Why would I leave him in charge? What is his track record of making money
Mm,
for the country? What is the track record of Gwede for creating jobs? Because the track record that I know about Gwede, that I've read in books, that I've seen in the newspapers, that I've watched on TV, the track record I see of Gwede is closing down mines, is having
mm,
violent strikes, is his actions always seem to result in retrenchments, and they always seem to result in a non-investment in whatever mine or industry. So to me, as far back as I go to the 80s, when I first heard the name, I don't see money following Gwede. I see it fleeing before him. I see it fleeing after he comes in. So no, how could he possibly be a good minister when he's driving capital away? He's causing more mines to close than to open. He's causing more layoffs to come than job creation. And he just seems to spout horrible things that investors don't want to hear.
mm, mm. Yeah, that's a tough judgment, and
F,
it's
failed. He's
um,
failed.
it's an
Failed
honest,
before he ever got the job.
it's an F grade for Mr. Mantashe. Now, let me ask you a quick question. As a long-time investor, Peter, are you pessimistic or optimistic about our mining industry in South Africa? Um, what is your view on our mining industry? Are you optimistic, pessimistic? What's going on?
Unfortunately, I'm pessimistic because the environment operates in has become so toxic, so radioactive. So let's look at the infrastructure. Can you imagine if you mined coal or iron ore 30 years ago and now you're mining it today? You're not even producing the same you did 30 years ago. You can't get it out of the country. We had such great working relationships, the mines with Transnet, with Eskom, with the harbors, that the mines, they would say, we want to expand. And they would work with Eskom. Eskom was world class. It was rivaling the professionalism of all our mining houses. Transnet, very similar. Ports, very similar. So you can't expand with this horrible infrastructure now. I mean, we have stagnated. You know, when I say how large we were in 1980, like you said, we're 20% of GDP. We were arguably the richest mining producer on the planet. We
Mm,
were ahead of Australia. Now Australia's coal industry generates more money, three and a half, four times more money than our whole mining industry. So
yeah.
Australia makes more money from coal than we do gold, silver, platinum, diamonds, copper, nickel, zinc, iron ore. You know, the list goes on. Um, yeah, I'm pessimistic because it's in such a toxic environment that's not showing signs of improvement, and it needs investment. If you don't keep getting fresh oxygen and blood transfusions, you'll die as an industry. And we can't get that with the current policy in place.
Yeah, those are very much powerful words, Peter. I hope that the audience reflects on them. It's a toxic environment. There are no signs of improvements. Peter Major says he is a mining and investment veteran, one of the well-known um, people in the mining industry. So, Peter, wonderful to talk to you, sir. We really appreciate your insights. It's a pleasure to talk about a very important issue that is affecting every citizen of South Africa. Remember, all do subscribe to this show, the Phumlani Majosi Show. We talk the issues that matter here. We've just finished a great conversation with Peter Major. In the next few weeks, we are going to talk to economists about South Africa's economy, where we are headed. That is what we want to bring you on this show. We want to bring you common sense on political and economic issues. We chat soon.